it gets curiouser and curiouser. So yesterday, we didn't have any major arcanas, right? So of course they had to show up today in Bounty. So the opening card that we have for today is the Empress. The challenge that we're working with today is the Hermit. The way that we're going to get through the challenge is the King of Pentacles. And the ultimate outcome that we have for today came in as the Devil with some clarity of the Lovers. So 5 out of the 4 cards are major arcana, which is speaking to major life lessons that we are working with right now that we don't necessarily get to avoid or ignore. They're kind of in our face, so we are forced to deal with them, right? They're a work that is here for us to work with. So just as something to kind of bring into the forefront here, we have the opening card of Venus, which is currently in the sign of Cancer at 23 degrees. Interestingly enough, in direct opposition to that is Pluto right now, which is at 26 degrees in Capricorn, retrograde. So we have a little hint to that transit happening currently. We have the Hermit showing up as our challenge. The Hermit often speaks to the sign of Virgo. It is governed by the planet of Mercury. We actually have Mercury currently in the sign of Virgo right now. So bringing some insight and possibly some new understandings to the area of Virgo in your chart. The way we're going to get through the challenge is the King of Pentacles, which is referencing Taurus. We have Uranus and Mars over in Taurus right now in an interesting conjunction, really close to the North Node. And then we have our ultimate outcome showing up as the Devil card, which is speaking to the sign of Capricorn, which is governed by Saturn. Capricorn, as I had just mentioned, has the planet of Pluto sitting in it right now. We actually started going through this big shift in a social setting when we had a major conjunction or grouping of planets, also known as a stellium, in Capricorn of January 2020, which is actually what inspired me to make this orb back here, because I wanted to see what the planets looked like in the sky in a 3-dimensional form. So we have that going on. We also, interestingly enough, have Saturn sitting in the sign of Aquarius, which is in a fixed sign, which is in a square relationship to the placement of Uranus over in Taurus. And then I drew this card for clarity, which is the Lovers, which also references that energy of Mercury and how we look at things and how we speak about things. So we have a lot of really strong, powerful energies coming in today, which is speaking to the shift that we've all been going through and the process of evolution in our own being that we've been going through. So how do you keep your feet firmly planted on the ground when the ground seems to be moving under your feet? We have this energy of the Empress card, right? Which is the mother of the zodiac. It's speaking to Venus and this quality of abundance in the realm of, you know, our finances and our life and love and relationships. And we have this opening dough note for the reading here through the passageway of the Empress card. Now, she's interestingly enough in opposition to that planet Pluto, which is over in Capricorn. So lots of change and transformation that we've all been going through, but how do you keep your feet firmly planted on the earth while you're going through this experience? A lot of it depends on your daily routines and what impressions you are giving to your being by way of the mind and what conversations you are also giving to yourself. Now consider that we have the challenge coming in as the Hermit, which is pretty interesting because right now we have Mercury in Virgo, and Mercury is the messenger of the gods. It's the planet that is bringing insight, information, communication, and delivers it to all of the planets of within our zodiac system, right? Because it's the fastest moving planet. It moves quickly. And so it governs travel, transportation, conversations, and these are all things that are Mercury ruled. But it's going through this window of Virgo, which is asking us to have discernment with what we speak about, what impressions that we have, and really be more mindful by way of what we expose ourselves to and the arenas that we move ourselves into. It's a pretty powerful energy, and it's also reminding us that, you know, maybe being isolated isn't the thing that we need to be doing right now, but if we do need to consider like that healing that you've been working with, this is the challenge that we've been kind of looking at over and over and over again. You know, there's a lot of people who will suggest that, you know, your wounds won't heal if you continue to pick the scab, right? If you continue to just look at it and pick it apart, which can be one of the negative qualities that are associated with Virgo energy. But yet that quality of discernment has to come into place, right? So if, for instance, you have a wound, whether it's an emotional wound or a physical wound, how do you give it the attention it needs? What kind of salve do you need to put on it? What kind of environment do you need to put yourself in so that you can experience this nurturing that can actually heal this old wound that you've been carrying? Because, you know, I would argue that none of us are actually a victim of this circumstance. We actually are all being engaged in a lot of ways to respond to our environment in a new way, and to make sure that we speak up and use our voice, particularly because we have this guy, the King of Pentacles, showing up. So this is a Taurus ruled card, and I just mentioned that we have Uranus over in Taurus right now, which it was in that placement as well when we had that big stellium in Capricorn in January of 2020, because Uranus has a transit of about 7 years through every zodiac sign, and each planet has its own pace, right? Mercury is considered an inner planet. It is the closest to the sun. It is the fastest moving because it has the fastest moving orbit, whereas Pluto, which is at the farthest point of our zodiac system, it's the outer planet, the most outer planet in our zodiac system, it has the longest orbit, right? So it's going to sit in a sign sometimes for up to 20 years, and it creates a long lasting change, which is a generational change. So we have these energies that we've been working with for a couple of years, and in that time frame we've had other planets kind of moving around and bringing energies to different areas within the zodiac system, almost as if you know, you have a family member or a friend visiting your house, and what kind of things they bring in to your environment that cause you to have a new perspective or maybe adjust the things that you're doing because they were present in that space. These planets do this in our lives as well, which is why I believe it's really important to understand your natal chart and to look at how those planets affect you. Because when I look back at my own life, I can see where some of the biggest transformative times for me are when certain planets transited particular areas of my chart. And when we look at these things, we can have a little bit of a detachment around the situation that's happening, and also learn how to work with it and better understand these influences that are happening to us astrologically. So let's get back to this guy, the King of Pentacles, right? Fixed earth. He's solid. He's certain. And what have you acquired by way of information and experience in the last couple of years that have shifted your value system and perhaps even made you reflect on how you use your voice and how important it is to use your voice, because Taurus governs our voice and our throat. I actually had a lot of work with this in my life because I got sick a lot as a kid in the area of my throat, and that was because I wasn't speaking my truth. So it's important to speak your truth and to speak up and to also confirm your boundaries by way of your voice as well. Which brings me to the ultimate outcome that we have for today, showing up as the Devil card. This card typically freaks people out quite a bit because, you know, we see these two people in a position of bondage. They're seemingly stuck to some kind of cycle or situation. And it's speaking of some kind of limitation that we are in the dark about, and yet it's of our own doing. Now consider that this Devil card is speaking to the energy of Capricorn. It's also speaking to the energy of Saturn, because that's the planet that governs Capricorn. Right now we have Saturn in Aquarius. It's actually in retrograde as well. And so you may be kind of finding yourself butting heads with some kind of authority or some limitation in your life that feels like it's some kind of bondage. And yet at a square relationship to that, we have Uranus over in Taurus, which is creating change and encouraging us to change. And so people are like, well, what is the stronger energy, Uranus or Saturn? And I would argue that Uranus is coming in with such a big bang because it's making us change our value system so that we can move in a direction that we have felt called to move in for our entire lives. And this will possibly give us greater authority over our own lives. But it comes down to discipline, and it also comes down to boundaries. So you may find yourself speaking up for your boundaries more this week as we are going through this transit. Which also brings me to this Lovers card, which we had as a clarity card, which is also speaking to Mercury, how we use communication, and how we choose what we decide to engage in and what we are willing to engage in. Because this is each of our own lives, right? This is our own personal journey. And if you're feeling forced to do something that doesn't feel good in your being, and at the same time there's something else that's calling for you to put your attention to it, we have to be watchful of how quickly we can get triggered or engaged and with energies that aren't necessarily serving our being and the direction that we are aiming to go in. Right? Because it can be greatly distracting to get fixated on something that is causing you angst. It's much more helpful, right, to have some kind of discipline with ourselves where we put our attention, where we put our energy, so that we don't lose the most precious resource that we have, which is time, to things that aren't serving us. So I think overall, all of us are going through a really big doorway of sorts, right? Hence, Venus showing up as the opening card, because she is the doorway to new life. And a lot of us are going through that right now. So I do encourage you, if you have your natal chart available, to look at it and look to where Taurus is at. And Taurus is a little symbol that looks like a circle with two horns coming up on either side. It actually has a crescent moon on top of a circle. And that is the symbol of Taurus in your natal chart, and will be pointing to the area of your life that you are being encouraged to evolve and create change. So we are in very powerful times indeed. If you're interested in getting a reading with me, I do have some time opening up, since I'm not currently selling at fairs and festivals, and I won't be teaching for a little while longer. So I do have some breaks in my schedule. So feel free to reach out to me at rootsofalchemy@gmail.com. Also, let me know if you would be interested in some kind of webinar or like basic, just maybe like hour-long course, not really a course, but a webinar to just kind of give you some examples so you can see how different natal charts are affected by this energy, because I've been considering doing that, and I just want to make sure that the effort is worth it, and people will actually be receiving it, and it'll benefit you all. So let me know, and I hope you all are well. I hope you enjoy a beautiful Saturday, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Mwah.